All right, after the big win against the Minnesota Timberwolves yesterday, I figured I'd just do a video on the 76ers. I know I've made a few videos on Maxey and sort of touched on the season that the Sixers were going to have, are having, but it's just time to talk about the Sixers because I'm pretty much bought all the way in the direction this team is going, and that means a number of things. Do I think the Celtics and the Bucks are still ahead of them? Yes, and the Heat as well. But before the season, I have the Sixers tiered as the fourth best team in the Eastern Conference. In my contender tier, I have the Bucks, the Celtics, the Heat. And then in the next tier, I have the 76ers because they still have the reigning MVP and they hired a good and creative coach that is not Doc Rivers, who is a one-ton anchor to put to your franchise player. And I wanted to see what Maxey would look like with the ball in his hands, and I thought he would be an all-star. But you can kind of make an all-NBA case for Maxey depending on where the Sixers finish at the end of the season. But last night's win, finally, the Sixers got a signature win after all the stupid takes and just dumbass analysis I've seen about Embiid padding his stats against teams like the Wizards and the Pistons, as if stars don't dominate bad teams, but whatever. The Sixers finally got a dominant win over the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have been, well, record-wise, the best team in the NBA, and they have by far the number one defense and a front court that could theoretically give someone like Embiid a little bit of trouble, or at least not put up the numbers he had been putting against the soft part of the Sixers schedule. And this win was just really good and convincing for a lot of people and for a number of reasons. Now, of course, we still have to see what happens in the playoffs, but as far as the direction of where the franchise is going, this is the most confident I've felt since the Sam Hinkie era, or even after that, the early part of the Brett Brown era where Joel Embiid was starting his second season and we had all this young talent and everything looked rosy because it was like, look at this young talent. I can't wait to see how it develops. But we got to start with Embiid, man. This guy just keeps getting better, and last night's Timberwolves win, he absolutely dominated them, even spawned, once again, just terrible discourse about his foul baiting, even though he gets fouled on 95% of his fouls. But that's besides the point. The man just gets better in every single season he's played in, minus the terrible Al Horford year where they had 5,000 power forwards on the roster. But this year, Embiid is averaging 35 points a game, nearly 12 rebounds a game, a career high in offensive rebounds, by the way, nearly 2 blocks a game. But most importantly, and I touched on this in my Joel Embiid video a few months ago, but a career high 6 assists per game. Now, his assists have gone down a little bit recently just because he's been absolutely dominating teams scoring the ball, but the improved playmaking is there. And he's doing all of this on a 65 true shooting percentage. No one has ever averaged 35 points per game on a 65 true shooting percentage in NBA history, by the way. He is averaging more points per game than minutes per game, which has not been done by anyone other than Wilt Chamberlain the year he averaged 50 points a game on 48.5 minutes per game. This guy has taken his game to another level. The Sixers have the second best offensive rating, the sixth best defensive rating, and really for the first time in the Embiid era, it just feels like this team is more connected chemistry-wise than ever before. This team makes more sense roster construction-wise around Embiid more than ever before. And going forward, we're going to have finally some continuity for the first time in the Embiid era. Daryl Morey just agreed to a 3-year contract extension, and it matches up with Nick Nurse, who was Daryl Morey's first hire. Remember, with how backwards ownership is, they hired Doc Rivers first, and then Daryl Morey became available, and Daryl Morey got hired second after Doc Rivers. So Daryl Morey has his coach. Their contracts match up, and they also match up, I believe, their contracts end a year before or after. I have to double check, but they end right around the time Embiid's current contract ends, and they have a co-star finally in Maxey, who I've addressed multiple times on this video, that will actually do basic fundamental basketball things, like shoot a basketball, for example. Just everything makes sense around this team. I think they need a few more pieces, and really how far the Sixers go in the playoffs, well, one will obviously depend on Embiid, and health is a big part of that. Even though he does have some playoff criticisms that are fair, he needs to be healthy first and foremost, and just how fast Tyrese Maxey can mature in the basketball sense, because we are asking a lot of a 23-year-old to be the second best player on a championship team already. Just given that Embiid's age, he's going to be 30, and Tyrese Maxey is the perfect fit with Embiid as a point guard, but Tyrese Maxey is still really young. So just in the playoff experience sense, we're going to be asking Maxey to grow up fast, probably faster than a normal 23-year-old in the NBA who is a budding star, but that's just what's going to be needed if the Sixers want to make a deep playoff run. But just as far as the future, looking ahead to multiple seasons, there's finally some continuity and things to look forward to. But Embiid has been incredible. To me, he's the front runner for MVP, and I've refrained from talking MVP. I'm not going to do a quarter update MVP thing like I did last year, just because I don't even want to be a part of the discourse after it got so nasty last year. But I want you to listen to these numbers the last 8 games, because it's just absurd, and this is including the 51 piece he had yesterday against the Timberwolves. Again, the best ranked defense in the NBA. And just real quickly before I read these off, just the stupid takes from certain accounts in Colorado, the state of Colorado, about Embiid and the soft schedule he was playing against, as if Embiid doesn't do this against nearly every team in the NBA in the regular season, have just been fucking absurd and really just brain rotting. But that's beside the point. Let's look at the last 8 games. 41.4 points per game, nearly 13 rebounds a game, 4.5 assists per game, nearly 2 blocks a game, on a field goal percentage of 61.5%. and 37.5% from 3 on 3 3-point attempts per game. 92.5% from the free throw line at nearly 12 attempts per game. This guy has been absolutely unstoppable. He has taken his game yet to another level this year. My ideal Embiid season going into the year was he would tone down the scoring a bit and focus more on the defensive end, and he's just like, nope, I'm going to do both even more. And I'm going to be better at passing, and I'm also going to prop up a top 6 defense. It's just been fun watching this Sixers team. It's been a while since I've had just really true fun. There's always going to be stress when you're a fan of a team, just because of expectations and stuff like that. But relative to expectations going into the year, and I expected the Sixers to win 50 games or whatever. Embiid is a walking 50-win team by himself. The numbers bear that out. Just look at his win percentage in his career. But this is just fun. There is wings all over the place. Nick Batum is easily the best entry passer that Embiid has had in his entire fucking career. There is a budding all-NBA guard playing next to Embiid who's a deep 3-point shooter and just someone that can work well off Embiid. The 2 best players on the team synergize off each other. There's a really good coach in Nick Nurse at the helm. It's just fun to watch so far. Will they beat the Celtics in a series? I wouldn't bet on it. Will they beat the Bucks in a series? I think that series would actually be interesting because those games have always been weird and we have yet to get a Giannis Embiid series. But I would give the Sixers a puncher's chance in that series, but I would still probably lean Bucks. But just the way the team is built right now, just the way the team is playing right now, and the fact that Daryl Morey has a few moves to make up his sleeve, if I had to make a recommendation, just get another 2-way wing or a wing that can initiate some offense like a Gordon Hayward or a Bojan Bogdanovic. Can we please fucking trade Tobias Harris already, because I am just done with the Tobias Harris experience. And then get a backup ball handler because Maxey just can't do it all by himself. Daryl Morey has the assets now from the Harden trade to make another move. I really like where this team is right now. Not just for this season, but for seasons to come. Because people just acted like Embiid and his prime was over just because he's turning 30 this year. I think he still has a few more years left. Yes, he's been injury prone, but you have to think he started playing basketball at 15. He doesn't have the normal wear and tear of a guy who's played basketball his whole life. Yes, he has been injured, but I think Embiid will age a little bit better than he gets credit for going into his 30s. I just really like where this team is right now. And I think a lot of Sixers fans are. Yes, we all want to wait for the playoffs. Yes, he still has very legitimate questions to answer in the playoffs. For me, mainly, it's can this guy just fucking stay healthy, not have a freak injury? But I just want a deep and healthy playoff run from this man, because he is on pace to be the leading scorer in the NBA for the third straight year, which hasn't been done by a center since Bob fucking McAdoo in the 70s. And he's one of the best bigs of all time, and I just need one healthy playoff run from him to solidify that.